The day the ships appeared, the sky turned silver. 7 massive disks hung above major cities across Earth, each one bigger than the largest human building ever made. They made no sound. They simply watched. Commander James Reed stood on the roof of the United Defense Force headquarters, squinting up at the enormous vessel that blocked the sun over New York. His radio buzzed with reports from around the world. Beijing reporting the same. No movement, no communication, said a voice. London confirms. Just waiting, said another. Reed rubbed his tired eyes. It had been 24 hours since the visitors arrived, and still, they had made no move. Sir, said Lieutenant Fisher, running across the rooftop. Our signals are getting through. They're responding. In the command center, screens lit up with strange symbols. Computers worked to translate. Finally, words appeared. We are visitors. Your world it has resources we need. You have 72 HOURs to surrender control. Reed hit the emergency broadcast button. This is Commander Reed to all Earth Defense Forces. Prepare for possible hostile action. I repeat, prepare for hostile action. As if hearing his words, the ship above began to glow. A beam of light shot down, striking a military base outside the city. When the light faded, nothing remained but smoking ground. They just wiped out Fort Hamilton, Fisher said, her voice shaking. 5,000 soldiers, gone. Around the world, the story was the same. Military targets destroyed in seconds. A show of power. Alex Wilson wasn't a soldier. He was just an astronomer who liked looking at the stars. Now he was looking at something very different through his telescope. That's strange, he muttered, checking his equipment again. He had been tracking the alien ships for hours from his small observatory outside Boston. What he saw didn't make sense. As the Earth rotated and night fell across different regions, the ships moved. They always stayed in sunlight. Alex quickly checked data from other observatories around the world. The pattern was clear. The visitors followed the sun. Back at headquarters, Reed watched screens showing battles across the globe. Earth's weapons seemed useless against the alien technology. Tanks, jets, even guided missiles had no effect. Commander called a young analyst named Tom. I've noticed something odd about the attack patterns. What is it? Reed asked, desperate for any useful information. They only attack during daylight hours. Look at the timestamp on each engagement. Reed studied the data. The analyst was right. Every attack had occurred during local daylight. As sunset approached in each region, the aliens withdrew. His phone rang. It was Alex Wilson from the Boston Observatory. Commander Reed, you don't know me, but I've discovered something about the visitors. Their ships always move to stay on the daylight side of Earth. They're avoiding night. Reed's mind raced. We need to confirm this. If they have some weakness related to darkness. Just then, the sun began to set over New York. Everyone watched as the massive ship overhead began to move, slowly drifting westward, following the sun. Get me every night vision unit we have, Reed ordered. And I want all attacks coordinated after local sunset until we figure out what's happening. As darkness fell over the eastern United States, something unexpected happened. The ground forces the visitors had deployed began retreating to their ships. Reed watched through binoculars as alien soldiers rushed back to transport vessels, almost like they were afraid of the coming darkness. Whatever advantage they have, he said quietly, it doesn't work at night, and that might be the only chance Earth has. Across the world, the pattern repeated. Where night fell, the aliens withdrew. Humanity had found its first glimmer of hope in darkness. 1 week after the visitors arrived, half of Earth's armies lay in ruins. During daylight hours, the aliens were unstoppable. Their weapons cut through tanks like paper. Their shields ignored bullets and missiles. By day, they ruled. But night told a different story. Tom Baker, once a decorated military officer, now led a small group of survivors in the ruins of Chicago. He watched through broken windows as alien troops marched through the streets. Their tall, thin bodies moved with strange grace. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight. "They'll be gone in an hour," Tom said to the others hiding with him. "How can you be so sure?" asked a young woman named Kate. Tom checked his watch. "It's 5:47. Sunset is at 6:21. They always leave before dark. Always." Kate looked doubtful, but Tom had seen it happen 5 days in a row. As surely as the sun set, the aliens retreated. At 6:05, right on schedule, the alien commander gave some signal. The troops began to move back toward their ships. "See," Tom whispered. "They're scared of something about our nights." By 6:30, as darkness fell, the streets stood empty. Tom led his group outside. "We have until dawn," he said. "Let's find food and anything we can use as weapons." Hundreds of miles away, Maria Diaz had noticed the same pattern. A former police officer, she now led the largest resistance cell in what remained of Los Angeles. "They can't see in the dark," she told her people as they gathered in an abandoned subway station. "Or something about night affects their technology. Either way, darkness is our friend." One of her scouts brought news. "The aliens have set up a command center in the old city hall, but they leave it empty at night." Maria smiled. "Then tonight, it's ours." Under cover of darkness, her team moved through the city. They reached City Hall just after midnight. As expected, no aliens guarded it. They slipped inside and found computers, weapons, and strange devices left behind. "Download everything," Maria ordered, "and take those smaller weapons. We need to understand their technology." At dawn, they retreated to their hideout, arms full of alien tech and data, just in time. As the first rays of sun touched the buildings, alien ships returned. At the remaining United Defense Force headquarters, now hidden underground in Colorado, Commander Reed reviewed reports from resistance cells worldwide. "The pattern is consistent," he told his officers. "Every single visitor force withdraws at sunset and returns at sunrise." Alex Wilson, the astronomer who first noticed the ships following the sun, had been brought to the headquarters to help understand the aliens. "It's like they evolved on a planet without night," Alex suggested. "Maybe they can't see in darkness, or maybe their technology needs direct sunlight to function." Reed nodded. "Whatever the reason, it's the only advantage we have." He turned to a map showing night and day across the globe. "I want coordinated strikes in every occupied city, timed exactly 2 hours after local sunset. Hit them when they're gone, take what we need, and vanish before dawn." On the screens around them, messages poured in from around the world. From London to Tokyo, Sydney to Nairobi. The same story repeated. Humans were learning to move in darkness, to strike from shadows. The visitors controlled the day, but Earth's nights belonged to humans. In New York, Tom's group found others. In Los Angeles, Maria's team grew stronger with each night raid. Across the planet, people whispered a new hope. The invaders feared Earth's darkness. The aliens noticed too. On the 8th day, they changed tactics. More ships arrived. They installed massive light towers in occupied cities. They tried to turn night into day. But some things can't be changed so easily. Earth had spun in darkness for billions of years, and humans had learned to use that darkness as a weapon. 2 weeks into the invasion, luck finally favored humanity. A small visitor scout ship crashed in the mountains near Denver during a sudden storm. The resistance reached it before the aliens could recover their technology. Dr. Jane Bell, a xenobiologist who had studied unusual life forms before the invasion, led the team examining the crashed ship. She wore night vision goggles as she stepped inside the alien vessel. "Incredible," she whispered, touching the strange metal walls. "Everything is designed to capture and use light." The team found something even more valuable inside. The body of a visitor. It was the first intact specimen humans had seen up close. Dr. Bell worked through the night, studying the aliens' biology. By morning, her hands shook with excitement as she called Commander Reed. "I know why they fear darkness," she said. "Their eyes evolved for a world with constant light. They have no night vision at all, not even the poor night vision that humans have. In darkness, they're completely blind." But that wasn't all. The alien skin contained something like solar cells, tiny structures that absorbed light and converted it to energy. "They don't just use technology powered by light," Dr. Bell explained. "They themselves are partially powered by it. In darkness, they grow weaker by the hour." At the same time, engineers studying the ship made another discovery. The alien technology used no batteries or fuel cells as humans understood them. Instead, it stored energy captured from sunlight in crystal-like structures. "These crystals hold enormous energy," explained Bill, the lead engineer. "But they can't recharge without direct exposure to sunlight, and the energy depletes quickly when used in darkness." Reed called an emergency meeting of all resistance leaders who could safely communicate. "We've confirmed the visitors have two critical weaknesses," he told them. "First, they cannot see in darkness. Second, both their bodies and their technology weaken without sunlight." Maria from Los Angeles spoke up on the video call. "That explains why they're setting up those huge light towers in occupied areas. They're trying to create artificial daylight." "Exactly," Reed nodded. "And that gives us our next target. We need to destroy those light systems." Tom from Chicago joined the discussion. "We've noticed something else. Their sensors don't work well in our atmosphere at night. It's like they can't adjust to Earth's mix of gases and moisture when there's no sunlight." Alex, who had been analyzing data from observatories worldwide, confirmed this. "Their ships change course during storms or heavy cloud cover," he said. "They seem confused by weather that blocks sunlight." As the meeting continued, a plan began to form. Humanity would use its oldest companion, darkness, as its greatest weapon. "We need special forces who can operate in complete darkness," Reed decided. "And we need to find ways to create more darkness, artificial night, that we control." That evening, resistance cells across the globe received new orders. Destroy the light towers, operate only at night, learn to fight without any light at all. In the ruins of what was once London, a group led by an ex-soldier named Mark became the first to successfully destroy a visitor light tower. They struck at midnight, using night vision gear salvaged from military bases. When the massive tower fell and its lights went out, something unexpected happened. The aliens nearby began to make high-pitched sounds, almost like screams. They stumbled around blindly, their movements becoming slower, weaker. Mark radioed the success to headquarters. "It's working," he reported. "Without their lights, they're helpless." Across Earth, humans began to reclaim the night, and the visitors, for the first time, began to know fear. 1 month into the invasion, a new force emerged. They called themselves the Night Fighters, soldiers specially trained to move and fight in complete darkness. Jack Howard, once a Special Forces operator, now trained these elite units. In an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, he gathered men and women from military units around the world. "Forget everything you know about fighting," Jack told the first group of 50 soldiers. "The old rules don't apply anymore. From now on, we own the night." Training was brutal. The soldiers learned to navigate by touch and sound alone. They practiced in rooms so dark that even night vision goggles couldn't help them. They learned to feel the air change when something moved nearby. "Humans have senses we rarely use," Jack explained. "Our ancestors hunted at night long before technology existed. We're going to reawaken those abilities." By day, the soldiers studied the alien biology and technology that Dr. Bell and her team had discovered. They learned the exact weaknesses of the visitors, how their eyes couldn't adjust to darkness, how their bodies grew sluggish without light energy. After 2 weeks of training, The first night fighter unit was ready. Their target, a major visitor command center in Denver. The aliens had installed huge light towers around it, creating a circle of artificial daylight. "We take out the lights first," Jack told his team as they prepared for the mission. "Then we attack while they're blind." At midnight, with the moon hidden behind clouds, the night fighters approached. They wore special suits that absorbed light rather than reflected it. Each carried weapons designed to work silently: knives, bows, and guns with sound suppressors. The first phase went perfectly. Night fighters took out the guards at each light tower, then planted explosives. On Jack's signal, all the bombs detonated at once. Darkness crashed down on the command center. Inside, chaos erupted. The visitors stumbled around blindly, their high-pitched cries filling the air. Some tried to activate emergency lights, but these were quickly destroyed by the advancing humans. Within 30 minutes, the entire command center had been captured. Not a single night fighter died. News of the victory spread through resistance networks worldwide. More volunteers came forward, wanting to join the night fighters. More training centers opened. Meanwhile, regular citizens formed support networks that operated exclusively after sunset. They moved supplies, passed messages, and provided safe houses for the fighters. A strange pattern developed across Earth. By day, humans hid while aliens controlled the cities. By night, humans emerged while aliens retreated to their ships or heavily fortified bases. Lisa Chen, a scientist working with the resistance in Australia, explained it best. "It's like we're sharing the planet on a timeshare basis. They get the daylight hours, we get the night." The visitors responded by creating more powerful light systems. They developed suits that stored solar energy for their troops. But nothing worked perfectly. Their biology simply wasn't adapted for darkness. In Japan, a night fighter unit captured a small alien outpost without firing a single shot. They simply destroyed all light sources and waited while the visitors grew weak and confused. In Brazil, resistance fighters discovered they could use the dense jungle canopy to create natural darkness even during daytime. They ambushed alien patrols where the sunlight couldn't reach. Commander Reed watched the reports come in from around the world. For the first time since the invasion began, humans were winning battles. "We found their weakness," he told his staff. "Now we need to exploit it on a global scale." The night fighters became legends among both humans and visitors. To one, they were heroes. To the other, they were terrifying shadows that struck without warning. As Jack Howard told his troops before each mission, "We are what waits in the darkness. We are what they fear." 2 months into the war, the visitors changed their approach. They had learned from their losses. Massive ships descended from orbit, carrying new equipment. In occupied cities, they installed light systems unlike anything seen before. Huge towers that cast light as bright as daylight, with backup generators and heavy guards. "They're adapting," Commander Reed said, looking at satellite images of New York. The city glowed like a sun, visible from space even at midnight. The night fighters faced a new challenge. Their darkness advantage was shrinking as the aliens created artificial day in key locations. Lisa, the brilliant engineer who had studied alien technology, worked day and night in her hidden lab. She examined pieces of visitor equipment captured in raids. "Their technology has a weakness," she told her team after 3 days without sleep. "It can create light, but it can't stop something from absorbing that light." Lisa created what she called a night box, a device that could absorb photons in a limited area, creating a bubble of darkness even under the strongest lights. The first test happened in Atlanta. Jack Howard led a small team carrying 3 night boxes. They approached an alien checkpoint surrounded by powerful lights. "Activate when I give the signal," Jack whispered. When they were 50 meters away, Jack pressed a button on his radio. The 3 night boxes hummed to life. Darkness spread from each device, like black ink in water. The alien lights still shone, but their rays vanished into the boxes, never reaching their targets. The aliens panicked. their high voices screeching in confusion as darkness suddenly surrounded them. The night fighters moved in, swift and silent. 10 minutes later, the checkpoint was under human control. Not a single shot had been fired. News of the new technology spread quickly. Resistance groups worldwide began building their own versions of Lisa's Nightbox. The war changed again. Now humans didn't just own the natural night. They could create darkness whenever they needed it. The visitors responded by trying to adapt their own biology. Dr. Bell, monitoring alien communications, discovered they were attempting to modify their soldiers to see in darker conditions. They're injecting their troops with chemicals that might help them adjust to low light, she reported. But evolution doesn't work that fast. They're desperate. Some alien units began wearing special helmets with sensors that didn't rely on light. But these were bulky and slow, nothing like the natural night vision that millions of years had given to Earth's creatures. In Washington, D.C., a group of night fighters led by Maria discovered the aliens had set up a laboratory where they were experimenting on human prisoners. The aliens were trying to understand how human eyes adapted to darkness. The rescue mission freed 20 prisoners and destroyed the lab. Maria sent the aliens a message, written in their own language and left on a wall. You cannot take what took us millions of years to develop. Across Earth, the pattern continued. Day belonged to the aliens. Night belonged to humans. But now, with Lisa's invention, humans could bring night with them anywhere. Tom Baker, who had been leading resistance in Chicago, summed it up when he radioed headquarters. The darkness isn't something we hide in anymore. It's a weapon we control. Commander Reed gathered his top officers and scientists. We need to take this to the next level, he said. Local darkness has given us victories. But we need to think bigger. Alex, the astronomer, had been working on calculations. I think it's possible, he said quietly. With the right technology and weather conditions, we could create darkness on a much larger scale. Reed looked at the tired faces around him. Then that's our next goal. We're going to bring night to half the planet at once. The visitors were about to face Earth's darkness like never before. 3 months into the war, world leaders who had been in hiding met in an underground bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. Commander Reed presented a plan unlike anything they had considered before. Operation Nightfall, he called it. A plan to plunge key battle zones into artificial darkness for 72 hours straight. The room fell silent as Reed explained. They would use 3 approaches together. First, Professor Wilson and his team had developed tiny particles that could be released into the upper atmosphere. These particles would temporarily block sunlight without causing permanent harm to Earth. Second, engineers had repurposed weather control technology that existed before the invasion. They could create massive storm clouds over visitor strongholds. Third, electromagnetic pulse weapons would disable the aliens' artificial lighting systems all at once. We can create a 3-day night over the most important visitor bases, Reed explained, long enough for a coordinated global attack. The plan was dangerous. It would take resources from every surviving nation, and the visitors would surely detect preparations and try to stop them. If we fail, we lose everything, said one leader. If we don't try, we've already lost, replied Reed. The vote was unanimous. Operation Nightfall would begin in 2 weeks. Across the globe, humans worked day and night. In secret labs, scientists produced tons of the special light-blocking particles. In hidden bases, engineers prepared the weather control systems. Night fighter units trained for the biggest mission of their lives. The visitors sensed something was happening. Their attacks became more aggressive. They hunted for human bases with renewed fury. 5 days before Operation Nightfall was set to begin, disaster struck. Alien forces discovered one of the main particle production facilities in Australia. They launched a massive attack to destroy it. Lisa, who had been overseeing production, sent an urgent message to headquarters. They found us. We need help or Nightfall fails. Commander Reed faced an impossible choice. The facility was critical, but defending it would reveal how important it was. Jack Howard volunteered his best night fighter unit. "We'll hold them off," he promised. "Just get those particles finished," and moved out. The battle for the Australian facility became the largest of the war so far. The night fighters deployed every night box they had, creating pockets of darkness amid the visitors' powerful lights. For 3 days and nights, humans fought to defend the facility while scientists inside worked frantically to complete production. Sleep-deprived soldiers took turns holding the perimeter. Tom Baker led a diversionary attack on a visitor base 200 miles away, drawing some enemy forces from the main battle. Maria and her team provided critical intelligence, intercepting alien communications and warning the defenders of incoming attacks. By the final day, the situation looked hopeless. Visitor reinforcements arrived hourly. The night fighters were running out of ammunition and energy. Then Lisa emerged from the facility with news. "Production is complete. The particles are being moved to distribution points now." Jack gave the order to retreat, but stayed behind with a small team to cover the escape. As visitor forces closed in, he activated all remaining night boxes at once, creating a massive darkness that allowed the others to escape. Jack and his team were never seen again, but their sacrifice ensured that Operation Nightfall could proceed. At headquarters, Reed received confirmation. All 3 systems were ready. The particles were in position. The weather control systems were operational. The EMP weapons were deployed. "Begin the countdown," he ordered. "In 24 hours, we bring the night." Across Earth, resistance forces prepared for the most coordinated attack in human history. The visitors, sensing something was coming, moved their fleets into defensive positions. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The day Operation Nightfall began, the sky looked normal. The sun rose as it always had. The visitors continued their daytime operations, unaware of what was coming. At exactly noon Greenwich Mean Time, Commander Reed gave the order. "Begin Nightfall." Around the world, aircraft released the light-blocking particles high in the atmosphere. Weather control stations activated, pulling moisture into massive storm clouds. And at key points near visitor power centers, teams prepared the EMP weapons. The first sign that something was happening came 3 hours later. The sky began to darken, not like normal sunset, but in the middle of the day, a strange twilight fell across continents. In their ships and bases, the visitors noticed. Sensors showed unusual atmospheric changes. Their commanders ordered emergency lights activated. That's when the second phase began. The EMP weapons fired, sending waves of energy that shut down electrical systems across visitor-controlled areas. Their emergency lights flickered and died. Darkness, complete, overwhelming darkness, fell across Earth's most contested regions. The aliens panicked. Their communications, monitored by human intelligence teams, filled with confused, frightened signals. Without light, they were not just blind. They were weakening by the minute, their bodies unable to process the solar energy they needed. "Now," ordered Reed from the command center, "all units attack." The night fighters moved first, leading the assault on key visitor strongholds. They had trained for months to fight in perfect darkness. Now they moved like ghosts through a world that had become their perfect battlefield. Tom led the attack on Chicago's command center. Maria's forces struck Los Angeles. Mark and his team hit London. Around the world, humans who had once feared the night now used it as their greatest weapon. In orbit, the visitor mothership attempted to deploy technology to clear the particles from the atmosphere, but they had never faced a planet that could control its own weather. Storm clouds blocked their efforts, lightning disabling ship after ship. By the end of the first day of darkness, humans had retaken 12 major cities. By the end of the second day, 30 more fell. The visitors retreated to their largest bases, desperate to maintain some foothold on the planet they had tried to conquer. Professor Wilson monitored the particle distribution from the command center. "The effect will start to fade in about 12 hours, he warned Reed. "We need to finish this." Reed nodded. "All forces, prepare for the final assault." The target was the Visitors' Central Command in what had once been Geneva. Intelligence suggested their leader was there, directing the increasingly desperate defense. The night fighters, led by the surviving members of Jack Howard's team, approached from all sides. They carried Lisa's most powerful night boxes, creating perfect darkness even as the visitors tried to illuminate their position. The battle lasted 5 hours. Human forces took heavy losses, but they kept advancing through the darkness they had made their ally. Finally, they'd reached the central chamber. The visitor leader, taller than the others, with markings that showed high rank, stood surrounded by guards. Reed himself led the final approach. "Your forces are defeated," he told the alien leader through a translator. "Your advantages are gone. Surrender or be destroyed." For a long moment, there was silence. Then the visitor leader made a gesture that the translator interpreted as acceptance. Within hours, the remaining visitor ships began to retreat from Earth orbit. Their final message, broadcast globally and translated by human linguists, was brief. "The dark world is not for us. We will not return." As the artificial night began to fade, sunlight slowly returned to Earth. But something had changed forever. Humans looked at the darkness differently now. It had saved them when all their weapons and technology could not. In time, the story would be told to children around the world, how Earth's natural night cycle, something the invaders had never experienced on their binary star homeworld, had been humanity's greatest defense. The visitors had come with superior technology and weapons, but they had not counted on the darkness or on the humans who had learned to call it friend.